Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Talks. My name is Molly Polzine, and I will be your trainer for today's presentation on using product labels to credit cereal, yogurt, and combination foods. So today we want you to walk away knowing these important points about crediting foods using product labels. We want you to know how to identify cereals and yogurt that meet CACFP sugar limit requirements, how to correctly use CN labels and product formulation statements for store-bought combination foods, and then what labels must be kept on file for items discussed today. So now we're going to go through these points in more detail. For today's presentation, we are going to be using the CACFP reference guide, which is shown on the slide. This guide was recently revised and each program was mailed a packet of resources in April, which included a copy of the updated reference guide. It's also located at the link on the slide and can be found under Guidance Memorandum 12 in the Crediting Foods section. So first, we're going to go over how to determine if a breakfast cereal is creditable. For a cereal to be creditable in the CACFP, there can be no more than 6 grams of sugar per dry ounce. There are two easy ways to identify creditable breakfast cereals. The first is to use a WIC-approved breakfast cereal list, which doesn't involve using a product label. And the second is to use the product's nutrition facts label and a sugar limits chart. So we're going to review both methods now. The first way is to use the WIC-approved cereal list. Like the CACFP, all WIC-approved breakfast cereals must contain no more than 6 grams of sugar per ounce. Therefore, if you choose a cereal from any approved WIC list, it meets the sugar limit requirements. The CACFP reference guides includes a list of Wisconsin WIC-approved cereals that are creditable in the CACFP. So the list includes creditable cereals by name brand and by store brand. In the green box, there's a list of store brands. And in the purple box, there are different types of cereals that are listed. So for example, there are bran flakes, corn flakes, crispy rice, etc. If the store brand and the type of cereal are listed on the WIC list, the cereal is creditable. So for example, in the store brands column in the green box, you see that Great Value is listed. Then under the store brands of the following types section in the purple box, you see that plain cornflakes are listed. So Great Value cornflakes meet the sugar limits and are creditable. The next way to determine if a breakfast cereal meets the sugar limit requirement is to use the cereal's product label and the sugar limits chart in the CACFP reference guide. So let's go over how to use the sugar limits chart. So you look at the nutrition facts label on the cereal and you find the serving size in grams, which is in the red box. In this example, the serving size is 40 grams. Then you go to the sugar limits chart and you find the serving size column and follow that down to the number range that includes the serving size that you're looking for. So in this example, the range is 36 to 40 grams. So now you go back to the nutrition facts label and you find the total sugars line, which is under the total carbohydrates line and also in the green box. In this example, the total sugars for this cereal is 7 grams. Then back to the sugar limits chart, you look at the number under the sugar limits column to the right of the serving size range that was chosen. If the cereal has the amount of sugar or less, the cereal meets the sugar limit and the cereal is creditable. So in our example, our cereal has 7 grams of sugar, which is less than the limit of 8 grams. So this cereal meets the sugar limits and is creditable. So now let's switch our focus to yogurt. Creditable yogurt includes yogurt in a pouch, tube, individual, or large container. Drinkable yogurts are not creditable because they do not meet the standard of identity for yogurt. Also, for yogurt to be creditable, it must meet a sugar limit of no more than 23 grams of sugar per 6 ounces. It's important to note that, unlike cereals, not all WIC-approved yogurts meet CACFP sugar requirements. Therefore, you can't use WIC as a source for finding creditable yogurt items. So to determine if yogurt meets CACFP sugar limits, use the yogurt's product label and the yogurt sugar limits chart in the CACFP reference guide. This process is very similar to how we determined if cereals meet sugar limits. The one difference is that the serving sizes section in the yogurt chart has two columns, one for ounces and one for grams. So you'll use the column that applies to the yogurt package that you're serving. So let's go through an example using the yogurt sugar limits chart to determine if this yogurt is creditable for the CACFP. So again, you look at the nutrition facts label on the yogurt and find the serving size. In this example, the serving size is listed as 6 ounces or 170 grams. Then you go to the sugar limits chart and you find the serving size column and follow that down to the serving sizes that you're looking for. So now you go back to the nutrition facts label and you find the sugars line. And in this example, the total sugars for this yogurt is 19 grams. Then in the sugar limits chart, you look at the number under the sugar limit column to the right of the serving size column, which is shown in the green box. And if the yogurt has that amount of sugar or less, the yogurt meets the sugar limit and is creditable. So in our example, our yogurt has 19 grams of sugar, which is less than the limit of 23 grams. So this yogurt meets the sugar limits and is creditable. We recommend that you bring a copy of the CACFP reference guide to the store with you or take a picture on your phone of the WIC-approved cereals list and the sugar limits charts for cereal and yogurt so that you can reference them when you go to the store to make sure that what you buy is creditable. The last topic I'm going to cover today is store-bought combination foods. These are processed foods that contain 2 or more components, usually the meat and meat alternate and the grain components. So some examples are fish sticks, chicken nuggets, pizza, and there are also combination foods such as meatballs and frozen hamburger patties, Salisbury steak that may contain non-creditable ingredients such as binders and extenders. To serve these products in the CACFP, your program must have additional documentation on file that credits the items to the CACFP meal pattern. So this required documentation that must be on file to serve store-bought combination foods is either a child nutrition or CN label, or a product formulation statement or PFS. The CN label or PFS for each combination food must be obtained prior to serving the item as part of a CACFP reimbursable meal. This includes programs that receive vended meals. The vendor must supply the site with copies of the CN labels or the PFS. And if you don't have a CN label or PFS, that item is considered not creditable and cannot be served to meet the component requirements in the meal. So now let's go through how to use the CN label or PFS to determine how much to serve to participants. So here's a label from a box of corn dog nuggets. The part in the red box is the CN label. This part tells us that a serving amount tells us the serving amount and how much of each component is in each serving. So in this example, the CN label tells us that 6 mini corn dogs provide 2 ounce equivalents of meat and 2 ounce equivalents of grains. So we'll go through how to use this information later. So you can find CN labels on the product's package, and most often these will only be found on foods purchased through a large food distributor such as Sysco, US Foods, or Reinhart. You may be able to obtain a CN label information from your food distributor representative. Costco and Sam's Club may have a few items that contain a CN label, but those are less common. And items purchased in grocery stores generally do not include a CN label. If the item you purchase does not have a CN label, you may contact the manufacturer to ask if the item has a product formulation statement. This provides the same information that a CN label does. Many product formulation statements have multiple pages, as in the example on the screen. The first page provides information on how the item contributes to the meat alternate component, and the second page provides information on how the item contributes to the grains component. Finally, there may be a summary page with the information for both the meat alternate and grain portions. This one tells us that a serving of 4 pizza crunchers provides 2.5 ounce equivalents of grains and 2 ounces of meat alternate. So as you can see, the PFS provides the same information that the CN label did. When a PFS has multiple pages, as in our example, keep all pages on file. So once you get the CN label or the PFS on file, that's all you have to do, right? Well, not exactly. Obtaining the proper label is only the first step. These labels provide important serving size information that you need to use to determine how many pieces to serve to each participant. So let's go through an example. This CN label is for fish sticks. The CN label states that 2 fish sticks provide 1 ounce of meat alternate and 1/2 ounce equivalent of grain. So how many fish sticks do you have to serve to each participant at lunch? To help determine that, you need to use the serving sizes in the CACFP meal pattern. Per the meal pattern, at lunch and supper, 1 to 2-year-olds require 1 ounce of meat alternate. Therefore, based on the information in the CN label, which again states that 2 fish sticks provide 1 ounce of meat alternate, you must serve each 1 to 2-year-old 2 fish sticks. 3 to 5-year-olds require 1.5 ounces of meat alternate, so you must serve each 3 to 5-year-old 3 fish sticks to provide that 1.5 ounces of meat. Finally, 6 to 18-year-olds and adult participants who participate in the adult daycare component require 2 ounces of meat alternate. Therefore, you must serve each 4 fish sticks to provide that 2 ounces of meat. And with serving these amounts, this also meets the grains requirement for each age group. When using a PFS, or a product formulation statement, you follow the same process to determine how much to serve to each participant in each age group. So now I'd like to go over some important points about CN labels and product formulation statements. First, the nutrition facts label and the ingredient list of an item does not count as a CN label or product formulation statement. These do not provide the information needed to credit the item to the CACFP, nor do they provide the amounts to serve to each participant. Second, a CN label for one brand or type of item does not apply to another brand or item. So for example, if you buy Tyson chicken nuggets at Costco and they have a CN label, and then later you purchase Tyson chicken nuggets without a CN label at the grocery store, the CN label from the product purchased at Costco cannot be used to credit the product purchased at the grocery store. Similarly, a PFS for one item cannot be used to credit a different item. And lastly, not all store-bought combination food items will have a CN label or PFS. If you cannot obtain a CN label or PFS for a specific item, it cannot be served as a creditable component in the CACFP and cannot be paid with CACFP reimbursement. You will need to shop for a different item that has a CN label or PFS, or find an item that does not require one. So for example, buying an item that is not a combination food. So the DPI has a resource called Crediting Store-Bought Combination Foods, and it summarizes the requirements of CN labels and product formulation statements, and it also provides an example of how to use a CN label. This handout can be found under Guidance Memorandum 12 in the Meat Alternate section. To verify foods are creditable, you must keep support documentation on file. For cereals and yogurt, this includes the actual package or a picture or a copy of the package, and it should include the brand and the name of the item and the nutrition facts label. However, if you purchase a cereal on the WIC list, then you do not have to keep the label. For CN labels, you must keep the full label, which includes the product's brand name and the CN label box, like the label that's shown on the slide. If you cut out just the CN label part, it will not include the brand name. For product formulation statements, you must keep all pages that provide crediting information. For agencies who get their meals from a vendor, the vendor must supply the site with copies of all cereal, yogurt, and CN labels or product formulation statements. It is still the agency's responsibility to ensure that all foods provided by the vendor meet requirements. You can't assume that foods provided by a vendor always meet CACFP requirements. In fact, we've seen many examples where the vendor sends items that do not meet the CACFP requirements, such as cereals that are over the sugar limit or combination items with no CN label. So as a program participating on the CACFP, you're ultimately responsible to make sure that all foods are creditable. If you make a copy of the label, make sure that all parts are readable. They're not blurry or cut off or too dark to read. Keep all labels in a binder or a file folder and only keep labels that you currently use in the binder. You can file old labels in another file. Family daycare home providers should contact their sponsor with any questions about product support documentation requirements. If you have questions about information in today's Tuesday Talks or about the CACFP in general, please reach out to your assigned consultant. You can find your agency's consultant in the Consultants by County link on this slide. Home providers, please contact your home sponsor with any questions.